Good evening and welcome to the Town of Surf City Work Session Agenda. I want to call the meeting to order, and at this time I'm going to ask Trudy Solomon to stand up and lead us in our invocation, followed by John Koloski with our pledge.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for just allowing us to be here tonight and everyone who traveled to be here. We are greatly blessed. We're grateful for our property owners and our visitors. We're grateful for all the people that make this wonderful town. We value all of the people you've given us here with their talents, their knowledge, their gifts, their skills. We ask that you help us use all of these for the good of our city, and that not only that we consider where we've been, that we consider where we're going and what's coming in our future. Lord, so we ask for your protection, we ask for your guidance, we ask for your divine intervention, and of course, your mercy and grace. And as we experience those things, please help us to give those things to others. Bless those who work so hard for our town, and help us to have a healthy and prosperous new year. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, Chief Voorhees has a special presentation. You can start.
Eric, if you stand up and join me. I want to introduce everybody to Eric McDonald, the council and the mayor. Eric is originally from California. I'll try not to hold that against you. All right. Eric was involved with law enforcement from a young age. He actually was involved with a youth program from Semi Valley Police Department for about 5 years. And in August 2020, Eric joined the Marine Corps. He became a helicopter crew chief and rose to the rank of sergeant. We then hired him from the Marine Corps as a cadet and sent him through basic law enforcement training. He graduated from that training on December 21st, 2025, and tonight we're going to swear him in. His girlfriend Maddie is here and his good friend Omar. Thanks for coming and being here with us. So, like I said, in a moment we're going to swear in Officer Eric McDonald. You will take the oath of office. That oath is not just for a title or for position, but rather an oath to this community and to the principles of integrity, service, and accountability. I will then present you with the badge, and by accepting it, you accept the responsibility that will test your character, demand your courage, and require your compassion. This badge does not place you above others, but it does hold you to a higher standard. Your actions will reflect not only upon yourself, but on this department, this town, this community, and law enforcement as a whole. Wear the badge with humility, serve with honor, and never forget the trust the community places in you. Mayor?
You gonna hold us up? You will place your left hand and raise your right. Now repeat after me, please. I state your name.
I, Eric McDonald,
Do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
and I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina,
and to the constitutional powers
to the constitutional powers,
and authorities which are
to the authorities which are
or may be established
or may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
and that I will endeavor to support,
and I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend
maintain, and defend
the Constitution of said state,
the Constitution of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God.
to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God.
Thank you very much.
I'll try not to stick you.
It's
Here.
Thank you.
I want you to remember that now you are a guardian of Surf City, committed to upholding justice, committed to protecting citizens, committed to serving with integrity and fairness and respect. We trust that you will carry out your duties with the utmost dedication and professionalism. Welcome to Surf City, and thank you for your commitment to keep Surf City safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to your wife and your friends.
You want to say a few words? The floor is yours.
Firstly, I want to just say thank you to City Council for attending, friends and family, girlfriend, and Surf City Police Department. I really appreciate you guys coming out and witnessing this, and I'm glad to be here and hope to serve you all in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. So this time we'll move forward with the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Are there any public comments? Moving forward, there are no public comments. The town council work session plan items. Item number 1 is facilities expansion project update, and Kyle will present.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Good evening, staff and those that are watching online. This is a quick update. Not a whole lot has changed other than progress on the job sites. I'll start with the Surf City Public Utilities building. Completed this month, the pre-engineered metal building erection, exterior and interior framing, exterior sheathing, and insulation. Looking ahead, we have mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-ins, interior drywall, concrete pads, mechanical pad. As of a couple days ago, our total under budget is $706,715, but that does include contingency items that were laid out in the initial guaranteed maximum price. That's $150,000 for inflation buffer and $75,000 for owner contingency. The total buyout is under budget by $481,715. Moving over to Station 25, work is underway there as well. All concrete for building addition, including the slab, has been completed. The framing of the pre-engineered metal building has started. Looking ahead, roofing on the new building and re-roofing of the existing truck bay, masonry walls and overhead doors at the new truck bay will be installed. That total over-under is at, under budget, $146,766. The under budget on the buyout is $21,766. Once again, this does include a $75,000 inflation buffer and a $50,000 owner contingency for the project. And just as a reminder, inflation buffers were included on both these projects due to the volatile pricing of building materials at the time of contract approval, especially with tariffs, et cetera. So those will remain as cost savings in regards to the appropriated funds. Just want to let you all know that we will be at a point where we'd like to invite council to walk through those buildings. So we're looking at February 20th as that date. We will certainly gather more information, and we'd like to get a head count just so we know how many vests and hard hats we'll need. And then I'll ask the clerk to schedule all those things. But just looking ahead, February 20th, just want to give you a heads up. With that, that is the update on the facilities expansion project, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Kyle. Anyone have any questions? All right, thank you for that update, Kyle. Our next item is the audit presentation. And Melissa Moore is our finance director, and Austin Eubanks is one of our auditors from the Thompson Price, Scott and Adams, that will provide an overview of the presentation of the audit, as well as any updates on fund balances and overall physical health of the town of Surf City.
Good evening. My name is Austin Eubanks. I'm the audit manager at Thompson Price, Scott & Adams in our Wilmington office, and I had the pleasure of auditing the town of Surf City for the fiscal year end, June 30th, 2025. So we'll go through some required communications really quick. Our responsibilities fall under the generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, OMB uniform guidance, and the State Single Audit Implementation Act. So we were able to design and provide reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free of material error and in compliance with government regulations. We were also able to perform all our planned procedures and have complete access to both management and required information. We did not find any significant deficiencies in internal control this year. The new adoption or change in accounting policy was the GASB 101, which is sick leave, and that's grouped into the compensated absences. In prior years, it was only accrued vacation for that long-term liability. However, for the GASB 101, you do now need to show your sick leave as a long-term liability, and you will see a prior period adjustment, and that reflects the 2024 sick leave balance. So that's why whenever you see that prior period adjustment in the water and proprietary funds, so just to let you know, that's what that number is reflecting. Management judgments and accounting estimates were deemed reasonable, as they should be. We did not have any significant audit adjustments or unrecorded differences. We did not have any disagreements with management. We did not have any outside consultation or other accountants utilized in this audit, and no prior retention issues. Went too far. We did not have any difficulties while performing the audit. We did not find any irregularities or illegal acts, and no other findings or issues were noticed. So jumping into the general fund, total revenues and other financing sources that was collected for the general fund for the fiscal year 2025 was $19,186,000. Your total expenditures and other financing uses was $16,224,000, giving you a positive net change of $2.9 million. One of the metrics that LGC likes to utilize is a minimum undesignated fund balance. And that should be the very minimum threshold of 25% of your total expenditures. So that would put you right at $4 million of that fund balance. However, your unassigned fund balance was $16,383,000, and that fund balance available percentage, you're sitting at 101%, so well above that 25% threshold. Your tax collection rate overall was 99.14%. And we'll get back into that fund balance available percentage here in a minute, and the significance of it. Your general fund operating summaries, it's just a quick bar graph showing the performance of the general fund for the past 4 years. As you can tell, the green is the revenues, red is obviously the expenditures. So you're showing a profit each year, or a positive net change, I should say, each year for the general fund. So looking at your top 5 general fund revenues, your ad valorem taxes came in at 45% of the total revenues collected, and that was $8.7 million. Your unrestricted intergovernmental, which is mainly your sales and use tax, you collected $4.8 million, and that was 25%. Sales and use, sales and services, you collected $2.4 million at 13%. Investment to earnings was $1.8 million. I would say that's a significant number of investment earnings. Permits and fees of $883,000, and all of the revenues combined was $445,000. So the top 5 departments for the general fund, you had the police department spent $3.5 million, and that came in at 26%, so that was the largest department of expenditures. Your fire department, you spent $2.7 million. Public buildings had spent $1.3 million. Sanitation was $1.3 as well. Parks and Rec right at $1.2 million, and all other departments combined was $3.2 million. So let's look at your general fund fund balance for the past 4 years. Obviously, this is exactly what you want to see, that steady increase from year after year, from 11.1 million in 2022 all the way up to 18.1 million in 2025. What's more significant is that available fund balance from 5.3 million to all the way up to 16.3 million in 2025. And you will say in 2025 as well that 1.8 million was committed, restricted, or assigned, and that's mainly your state stabilization of 1.5 million and the Pleil bill expenditure of 246,000. So I want to circle back to that fund balance is available as a percentage of general fund expenditures. From 39% in 2022 all the way to 2025 is now at 101%. So that basically means that if you was not to collect any more revenue for as of June 30th, 2025, you can still operate with normal expenditures for an additional year. So it was exactly right at 12 months, a little over 12 months actually. So I think everybody was sent one of these sheets of how that was calculated. And that's very important because I know fund balance is a hot topic for you at the moment. So if you add in your unrestricted cash, your restricted cash, and you're excluding those Pleil bill, that restricted Pleil bill cash, which is 246,000, and then you take out your liabilities. So your fund balance available is 16,383,000. So that's your numerator and your denominator of your expenditures of 13,281,000, and you include your $2.9 million worth of transfers in that, and you had your Pleil bill expenditures included as well of $29,960, and that gives you the 16,194,000, and divide that and that comes up to 101%. So that's again 101% well above where minimum threshold that LGC wants to see. So I think you're doing a really good job being good stewards of the town's money, having such a high balance, and that just ensures that if there is any hurricanes or another COVID event happen, that you're well serving the town to be able to meet those demands and not have to wait on any FEMA to serve the citizens in a timely manner. So moving on to your beach renourishment fund, your total revenues and other financing sources, you collected $15,424,000. Such a large number, I want to break that down for you. For state grants, that was $10,935,000. You had county contributions of $360,000. Your investment earnings in this was $480,000. Your parking fees, which is a net amount of $922,000, and transfers of $2.7 million. You did have some total expenditures and other financing uses of $14,834,000, giving you a positive net change of $589,000, bringing that net position to $29,616,000. All right, moving on to your accommodation tax fund. Your total revenues was $3.5 million. Your total expenditures of $1,265,000, bringing you a positive net change of $2.2 million, and bringing that net position up to $6,341,000. So fund balance in that fund is a significant number. So good luck trying to figure out a good way to spend all that money. Mainland Park Project Fund. Your total revenues of $605,000. Total expenditures and other financing uses was $1.7 million, bringing you a negative net change of $1,172,000, bringing that net position from $2.6 million down to $1,477,000. All right, there we go. Facilities Expansion Capital Project Fund. Total revenues was $0 for this year. Total expenditures of $375,000, and that's what you ended up with for a negative net position as well. So brand new fund. Multi-use path project, another new fund. Total revenues of $200,000. Total expenditures of $181,000. A net change of $18,853, and that's where you sit at with your net position. And your non-major funds, total revenues and other financing sources is $317,554. Your total expenditures in this was $42,941, bringing a positive net change of $274,000, boosting that net position up to $2,140,000. So moving on from your governmental funds to your proprietary funds. Water fund, you had operating revenues of $3,426,000. You had operating expenditures of $2.9 million. I do want to reiterate that depreciation and amortization in that fund, which is non-cash items, of course, of $926,000. Again, we still had an operating income of $433,000. You did have non-operating revenues of $909,000. The majority of that was impact fees of $697,000. You had transfers of $1.3 million, and that boosted your net change to $2,659,000 in the water fund, bringing that net position from $37.9 million up to $40,363,000. And just to reiterate, that restatement number of $231,000, that was that accrued sick leave. So just point that out. So moving on to your sewer fund, operating revenues of $5,074,000. You had operating expenditures of $2.9 million. $297,000 of those operating expenditures was depreciation, again a non-cash item, bringing in operating income of $2,173,000. You'd have some non-operating revenues of $2.7 million, and the majority of that is impact fees of $1,364,000 and capital contributions, which is mainly grants, of $1,043,000. And you also had transfers of two other funds of $1.3 million. You still had a positive net change of $3,572,000, bringing that net position to $17,594,000. Stormwater fund, operating revenues of $564,000, operating expenditures of $311,000, right at $20,000 of that is depreciation. Operating, giving you an operating income of $252,000. You'd have some non-op contributions of $120,687. Transfers of $300,000, boosting that net change to $673,000, bringing that ending net position for stormwater fund to $587,000. So looking at your cash on hand for the town of Sarah City, of course, this is as of 6/30/2025. General fund, you had $17 million of unrestricted cash, $246,000 of restricted, and that's your power bill funds. Beach renourishment fund, $29,462,000. Your accommodation tax fund of $6.3 million. Mainland Park project fund, $1.5 million. Multi-use project fund, right at $35,000. Non-major fund was $2.1 million. Your water fund, $9.3 million of unrestricted. That restricted amount of $665,000 was customer deposits. Sewer fund, $4,062,000, and your stormwater fund of $21,000. So just to add on a little bit, so again, we did not have any findings in internal control. We did have two single audits, which was your water resources development grant and your drinking water state reserve directed grant. And we didn't have any findings in those as well. And we felt like the controls over those grant expenditures were very strong, and all the requirements were met and satisfied. So again, our opinion on this was unmodified. That's the highest opinion I could possibly give. With having no findings and your outstanding fund balances, I think the town is in very good financial condition. Any questions?
Thank you. It sounds like we've been very responsible, very cautious, and have protected the investment of Surf City very well. Are there any comments from the board? Trudy?
No, thank you for that report.
Alicia?
No, thanks. Good job, Melissa.
Yes, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, very well done.
Yes, I have a comment. And we've talked about this too, and it's the most appropriate representation of what the reserve fund or the general fund balance percentage is. And I'm of the opinion, and others within the various accounting disciplines agree, that the general, the ratio, the denominator of that ratio ought to be the operating expenditures, not the exclusive of transfers. So if you were to use that as a denominator, we would find that our ratio is actually 123%. So.
Yes, and you'll see that number is in the MD&A report. That is
right, and it's on the very first discussion page. Yes. So it would be, I think, enlightening to include that as another alternative of how we can visualize exactly what that general revenue fund looks like with respect to day-to-day operating. So, because when you have a need, it's to keep the lights on and gas in the police cars and things like that. It isn't to fund beach nourishment. So I'm a little bit hesitant to agree with 101 is the only number that's presented, where we could present it in both ways and then allow people to understand the differences between the two and why each one has a certain amount of added information.
The 101% is presented in that way because it is the one that is mandated by the LGC. So I just wanted to, just let you know
Well,
that.
the LGC does allow you to exclude transfers and present that.
Correct.
So when we present it in slides, particularly having both there is advantageous in that when you read the front page and it says 123 and then you read the slide and it says 101, first thing that comes to mind is why is there a difference? And if people are unfamiliar with how basic accounting works, or this is complex accounting, this isn't basic accounting anymore, it would be worthwhile to include that explanation.
Okay.
Melissa, you have anything to add?
Well, and when you look at slide 9 and you add up the numbers, you come up with 13.3 million. And you label it as the general revenue expenditure, or general expenditures, and you're using that term. If you were to say it's general expenditures plus transfers, that explains the 101.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
But other than that, it's always an enjoyable read. Oh, and there's one question I have.
Person I've ever heard say that.
All right, you gotta love numbers, okay? One of the other questions I have for you, and that is, historically, we've had the general revenue fund transfers as a table. So what was transferred out, and you said there were 2.9 million in transfers. There's a breakout. I didn't see that. Maybe I just missed it in the
In the
report.
financials?
Right,
Or on the presentation or in the financial
in the
statement?
financials. So maybe I just missed it.
So if you look, let's see here, page 38 is financial statements.
where it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
It's within the notes disclosures.
That's all we need.
Thank you.
Again, thank you, Austin, for presenting tonight. Thank you to Melissa and her finance team. I think you have done an awesome job in preparing our audit for presentation. So I wish your other members were here tonight from your team. So please relay the message that they have done a very good job.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on, we will go to item number 4, item number 3, Audit and Elections Budget Ordinance Amendment.
As Austin indicated during his presentation, we had to have some single audits that we did not budget for or anticipate. So this budget amendment will allot us funds to cover those expenditures as well as election costs. We just grouped the two together instead of two budget amendments. During the budget process, we contact the counties to find out what their estimates for the elections costs are going to be. But of course, we all know that was in February and the election happened in November. Costs go up. So they had quoted us $8,500 and we spent close to $12,000. So we need to have a budget amendment for the additional funds for the cost of the election.
All right.
So we're just asking for consensus to have this added to the February meeting.
Anyone have any questions? Do we have a consensus to move forward?
I agree. I'm good.
I have a question. This came up during the election process, and there was, every now and then, folks from Onslow, part of Surf City, would show up at the Pender voting and be surprised that they couldn't vote there. They were asked in early voting to go to Jacksonville to vote, and then on election day, there was a single site down one of the churches, I think it's the Baptist Church, over there on Old Folkestone. And so, all right, we paid $6,500, I think, or to Pender.
Pender.
And then we paid over $3,000 to Onslow. And we got 1 day of local voting and obviously just a small part of their ballot for their early voting up there in Jacksonville. Seems to me we paid a lot of money for very little stuff. And I'm curious if given the situation and the complaints that I personally got, and I'm sure others of you have heard as well from the people up in the canals, that it was inconvenient. And a lot of those folks are older and retired, and mobility is not their forte. Can we evaluate whether or not we want to have a voting place for Onslow residents of Surf City closer to home? We've had it in the past.
All we can do is ask the Board
Well,
of
given that we already
Elections.
paid $3,000, Pender charges $6,500. I don't, you can ask Onslow, how much would you charge, or how could we do this? Obviously, I don't think Onslow's going to let them vote in a Pender voting booth, right? Because I asked that question of Pender, and they said, no, we don't talk to each other. Well, that's not exactly what they said. But, so I would like us to consider that, and we have 2 years. And so that was my only comment.
We can always ask. I know there have been many years to where we didn't have any early voting in Surf City. Everybody either went to Burgall or they went to Jacksonville, and that was one way that we saved money. But everybody likes to early vote, and they like for it to be convenient, and you have more participation when we have an early voting site.
Well, we had a great turnout
Yeah.
this year, so, but the turnout in the Onslow part of Surf City was not nearly as good as the Pender part of Surf City, if you look at the metrics that the North Carolina Board of Elections provided. So, just a thought. Okay, and then I'll say yes, consensus.
All right, so we have consensus there. Item number 4, December financial statements. And that is also Melissa.
In your packet tonight, you have the same revenue expenditure report that you had last month, except for it's for December. We were supposed to include labels that told you which department was there. We thought we highlighted those. They were supposed to be in bright peach, but I think in conversion between Excel and Adobe and all that, the color went away. So we'll give you a cheat sheet with actual listings next time instead of highlighting them within the report. So if you have any questions about this is based off as of December 31st. This is your revenue and expenditure for your funds. You also had a trial balance. No, you did not have a trial balance. You had a balance sheet. So that report will show you our checking account balances for each fund, as well as your other liabilities and assets. So if you have any questions about those, I'll be glad to answer those the best I can.
I do have one question, and that is, in the year-to-date revenue expended for personnel costs, salaries, wages, and all the other contributions, are those actuals through the end of December, or?
That will be for payroll that was processed through the end of December, which are 2 weeks behind, so you would be
All
short.
right, so
one time.
it's 2 weeks less than 6 months' worth?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Your tax collection rate at the end of the day as well, which we track daily right now, is 93.6. We've collected $10.2 million to date, so. And we are actively pursuing those tax dollars.
Compared to previous years, good, bad, or otherwise?
It's average at this time. We'll send out late notices. We'll also send out, of course, they have to be published in the newspaper, and then we'll send out our first pre-foreclosure notification, which the ones that we sent out in May, pre-foreclosure notices, those people have already went to foreclosure as of Friday, or went to the foreclosure process as of Friday. And we had 18 individuals.
What's roughly the amount of those?
$56,000.
56,000.
There's a process you have to go through. So there was a couple that we did not send that pre-foreclosure notice to, so until we send one of those, we cannot begin the foreclosure note process.
Thank you for presenting.
Thank
You don't need anything there? You're all good? You don't need a consensus? We need a consensus to accept a report? No?
Just needs to be included in the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Next item is item number 5, the fee schedule update, and Kyle Brewer will present.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. And I'll cover all the various fee schedule amendments and try to answer any specific questions that you might have. But this is a mid-year adjustment for the fee schedule. Typically, we do this during the budget process, and we certainly will do this again in the upcoming budget process. But there were several things that needed to be changed or were causing some issues, and I'll just go through those each line item by line item. In your packet, there is a summary of the FY 25-26 fee schedule adjustments at the very end. It does not have colors on that. But the first item is going to be our parking rates. So in evaluating the parking rates, currently we have what we consider an A parking and a B parking. And generally, those are related to proximity to the Island Town Center or proximity to the beach access. The further you get away from the ocean access is where those B parking lots pick up. So my recommendation is that instead of having two different rates, to go to the $5 per hour for both A and B lots, and in essence, that will all just be one consistent rate. It will not be differentiated between A and B. I did check with our neighboring jurisdictions. Nobody is charging $3. I can tell you that. We are the cheapest in that portion. Also check with our colleagues down in Topsail Beach and North Topsail Beach. Did want to clarify, Topsail Beach did adjust their parking rate to $6 per hour and $30 for the day, and that was in '24. They do not anticipate any fee schedule adjustment, and North Topsail Beach is at $5, and they did not anticipate any fee schedule adjustment or with the adoption of the new budget. So with the $5 an hour, the daily rate would also increase to $25 per day, and the weekly rate would be adjusted to $100 as opposed to $80. In addition to the hourly parking rates, we looked at the Island Town Center businesses, and we are selling almost 700 parking passes, or providing 700 parking passes to our Island Town Center. We had a graduated scale where as the more passes that you purchased, the cheaper that rate was. My recommendation is that we remain consistent with providing the first 4 free parking passes for Island Town Center businesses, and then it's just a flat rate of $100 per pass beyond that. There's some internal control measures that I'm going to work with Pivot on this year to get old passes off the books for employees that may not be employed, or when businesses come in to purchase additional passes, to verify that it is a new employee and the other one has not gone away. We had some businesses that had purchased over 70 passes per business. And understandably, they have potentially a high turnover rate within their business. Service industry may tend to lend itself to that, but that is my recommendation for parking rates. We can go through questions, each one, Mayor, or I can just run through all these, and then we can go back for questions up to
Let's
you.
go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next item is administration and the annexation fee. The clerk did research on what those fees are. The current rate is $250, but we did increase that to $300 to account for additional staff time and efforts related to annexation requests. Community development, there's a zoning violation of $100 per day per violation. This is not new in concept. However, in reviewing the fee schedule, it was not adopted or inadvertently left out. So we want to make sure that that gets added back in. That's, certainly a recommendation from staff. It's a carrot for compliance. And I will note that compliance is always our number one objective. It is not fining people for zoning violations. However, it is a tool that we must use, in order to get some folks' attention. Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. We are, before I get into this, we are working on a comprehensive analysis for Parks and Recreation fees and a cost recovery policy for that, but that will be presented to you during the upcoming budget process. What they're asking for is simply a T-shirt replacement fee for our various camps. Summer camp, $10 is what they're charging for that T-shirt. But essentially people are leaving them at home or losing them, and you have to have that T-shirt, especially when we go on field trips for recognition purposes. Within our solid waste or sanitation, the additional cart fee is $15.50. This is listed incorrectly at $17 on our fee schedule. The per unit cost is being charged at $15.50, so just trying to bring some consistency there, and that is our recommendation. Lastly, we have the system development fees for water and sewer. Mr. Price gave a detailed overview, and even though this is part of our mid-year fee schedule amendment, it certainly warrants due consideration for that. System development fees are statutorily tied to process, engineering cost estimates, what analysis we have for capital improvement items on the books that have viability through engineering reports, et cetera. So the recommendations that in which our Mr. Price had presented remain our recommendations for council to consider for adoption. And at our last meeting, there was a discussion about maximum fees based on, the study, and, if the town were not to complete a project, is there sort of a legal ramification back to the town? We met with the town attorney and received guidance on this, and essentially, there's no legal concern from his standpoint so long as capital investments are made to expand wastewater capacity. However, I will say that if we commit to the highest fee, and as we are approaching potential projects of discharge into the Northeast Cape Fear River, discharge based on the low flow or no flow, we wanted to be able to go forward with the recommendation and then most likely update this fee study in 2 years when we have additional clarity on whether or not those projects have viability for the town to pursue. That timeframe will certainly get us to a point where our low flow and no flow, which would be our preferred alternative project, we would have rulemaking completed through the EMC and DEQ publishing those rules for adoption and for us to be able to pursue those. So there is a risk that is involved in taking on additional projects beyond the initial scope. And essentially, the fee schedule adjustment that we made 2 years will carry us through and protect the ratepayers through the capital investments that we are seeking with the Phase 2 subsurface project, as well as the scalping station that gets tied to that. So again, that goes into our recommendation of the intermediate rate in which we are recommending, because in order to take out the new debt that has not been evaluated with the rate schedule, that new debt potentially would go back onto the ratepayers in order to qualify for loans in order to complete that project. So in working with Mr. Price and understanding some of the cost estimates, the factor in which the fee is being recommended would still include plant upgrades that will be necessary for the project. Those account for about 48% of that $170 million project that was listed out in the rate study. So again, just trying to be as conservative as possible when we are looking at potential liabilities onto users and future rates that would have to be evaluated in order to qualify for loans, because they're going to want to see payback. And again, the way that the statute is structured is that we cannot collect payment on system development fees until a building permit is issued, when the capacity has to be accounted for and constructed prior to that development occurring. So again, I'll just reiterate, our recommendation is going to be go with the recommended rate in which staff is providing, and then this is something that we will pick up in 2 years, maybe 3 years, depending on timing of our projects and demand for additional sewer capacity down the road. So happy to answer any questions or try to answer any questions that you may have on the fee schedule. And Price is here, obviously, to answer any questions. I will note that in order for the system development fee to go into effect, a public hearing will be held in February for the board to hear public comments on that. But the remainder of those fees that are presented to you do not require a public hearing. They just require adoption by ordinance or resolution. So.
Thank you, Kyle. So the staff is requesting various amendments to the current fiscal year fee schedule. The following it was an overview that was delivered by Kyle. Anyone have any questions?
Yes. So I'm going to respectfully disagree with Kyle's assessment of the system development fees. For every dollar that we don't collect through a system development fee, that dollar will have to come from somewhere else, either now or in the future. The system development fees aren't paid until the future. However, I'll give you an example. Applewood Trace. Now, I don't know if they're going to fall into the new fees or the old fees. They're probably going to be the old fees, right? The phase two?
Based on the current agreement that we have, they're locked into the current fees.
Right. So I'm just going to use that if we had another one of these. So that's 300 and some odd single-family homes, 70 some odd townhomes, 388 new connections. The difference between the maximum and the recommendation is over $9,000 per home. That's $3.6 million. Spread over 3 years, that's a 10% increase in your water sewer bill to fund that difference. I can't see pushing development costs that are going to be incurred for new development onto existing ratepayers. I find that to be unfair. Development should pay for development. So if the metric or the math says we are allowed this number, then I don't see that discounting that number is anything but a subsidy to developers. I'm sorry, and the math works out that way. As far as the legal liability, if we don't believe in the numbers that were provided by our external engineering audit, then we need to go and redo the audit. But if those are the accurate numbers, then yes, we ought to be able to, or we ought to encourage us to charge what we are allowed by law to charge, because it reflects at least 75% of the cost of the expansion.
Yeah, so the factor in which I'm trying to explain is that if we move forward with the discharge in the Northeast Cape Fear River, we would have to take out a loan to do that. And the LGC is going to look at what is your current rate structure. Is that the collateral that can pay for this loan should the new development not occur? And what we're saying is that based on our recommendation, we can complete the projects that are in the pipeline, because the discharge project is something that is a difficult project for us to fathom in regards to the return on it. The current rates have protected our ratepayers to complete the projects on our list to get us through this 5-year window, which includes our subsurface phase 2, plant upgrades, the scalping station, et cetera. What our current rates do not account for is that additional project on top. So if we go to borrow money, the LGC is going to say, your rates are not sufficient to be able to pay this loan back. Because if that future development does not occur, then we have to pay the loan and we have to take that from operational costs because we have not realized the capital investments from the development that has not occurred through system development fees.
No, I don't agree with that.
Okay, then that's fine.
How much you charge isn't going to make a difference if you're charging more or less, as long as you don't exceed the maximum. So when it comes to the LGC and loans.
Okay.
And I noticed that Mr. Price got up, he probably wants to make a comment. Oh, I see, you were prepared, okay. No, I think that we're allowed by law, and the math says this is what it costs us, and these, based on our best estimate of what we plan to do. And we ought to exercise that option. I can't see burdening the taxpayer or the ratepayers of today.
That is not what
no,
is being proposed.
right now,
What's
yeah.
being proposed is that the current rates account for our 5-year plan. The current rates do not account for any sort of debt service that would be taken out for this discharge. So if we had to go and take debt for the discharge, the LGC is going to, once again, look at our rates and say, your rates are not high enough in order to qualify for this
Which rates
loan.
are we talking about?
Your user
impact
rates.
The user rates?
Yes.
Well, we need to cross that bridge when we get there.
That is exactly what I am recommending.
So either,
I'm looking at the system development fees.
Correct.
Being whatever it is, it's almost $30,000, $29,910 for water and sewer system development fee for a single-family residence. I would like that as our system development fee rate.
Okay.
How many developments that we currently have approved, given the capacity that we have left, would fall under the new rate structure?
If they have not pulled a building permit, then they will be subject to the new rate.
Okay. But do we, because we have a handful in the works right now, so just to get, like, if Applewood Trace is not in that mix, then that doesn't leave us that many other ones that we're doing this with
You'd have you'd have a residual, say 150 at Applewood plus Colonial Heights, which is 200. 197 units. Correct, but 240 is the first phase that they have capacity for, and then you have the agreement, sir. Proximity involved, so.
It's going to cost us what the audit revealed, X number of dollars, $30,000 on average per single-family home for the capacity. That's what the numbers said.
We don't disagree with you in that.
If we built every project.
Yes, and it's a 5-year, and it really isn't 100%, because they take the number and then they take it and knock off 25% for exactly that reason, in the event not all projects are completed. So the metric that is used to calculate this by statute already takes that into consideration. Why leave money on the table that ultimately is going to have to be paid by people who are ratepayers for sewer and water?
I think the thought is there's no guarantee that rate's going to increase because we don't know what those projects are. And in the event that those projects come about, then we can readjust this at that point. But did we find out what happens if we take money in and we don't do those projects? How does that
affect us? And there, because there was a question previously if there was any sort of legal mitigation involved in that.
Yeah, there's not a legal risk per se. It's just that money would have to be used for future capacity
So it's
in
just
the
sitting
system.
there if we don't have a project that we're putting it into.
That's correct.
So then if our day-to-day expenses increase, then we're going to have to raise user rates anyways to take on other parts?
What Mr. Brewer is trying to say is LGC counts our future user rate as collateral, not our system development fees. So in order to qualify for that loan, the $170 million loan, we will have to raise our rates in hopes that the system development fees come. That is why that project is challenging. So by committing to that project, which it sounds like we are doing by accepting these rates, and don't let me speak out of turn because I like to kind of do that sometimes. We're committing to that project, taking out that loan because we in here are saying we are going to do that project by accepting these rates. Now we might still do the project, which is waiting to make that decision until we get more information. We have to raise our user rates to accomplish a $170 million loan and hope we get paid back with these rates. What staff is recommending is with the NPDS, with the $170 million project, let's hold off on that portion until we have better information and do what we could know we could get done in 5 years. Instead of going ahead and making either it's legal or not, we are making a moral commitment to do that project by charging people these rates.
That's been the plan all along, to double the throughput capacity of our sewer.
Yes, sir.
So now we're saying, well, maybe we don't want to do that?
No, I think we're saying maybe we don't want to put 35 miles of pipe in the ground to the Cape Fear River. We may want to research out other alternatives to make that happen.
And then we can change
Well, that's what I'm saying.
we can change that in the future. Right now, it is the plan that we've all agreed to. These are the system development fees that are allowed under the legislative approach. And now,
They said
we're,
if we
now
go to
we're-
this max amount, though, we're basically committing to the Cape Fear River project.
That project, yeah.
are we?
I'm not prepared to do that.
That's what we're saying right here. We are going to charge newcomers to Surf City to do that project. Now, legal advice says if we find something else, we could use that money for other things. But as of right now, we do not have anything else besides what is listed in here.
That's why they're asking to, let's back off 2 years, identify something else. We can still come back and raise the system development fees, but this is what, the rates they're proposing now for system development fees prepares us to take on what we know we're getting ready to take on. We're not kind of committing with a handshake and a promise to commit to something I don't know that we're prepared to do.
And why did it end up in the metric?
Because right now, that is our best option. It is still an option. We are still looking into it.
Can you give me a number absent that particular investment?
Yes, sir, I have.
And
That's our recommendation.
and we have the math that supports that.
I can show it to you.
I still don't agree. I think we made a plan. If we're waffling on executing that plan, then that's a challenge. If our plan
Andy, I don't
says
think
this
we're
is what we need-
waffling on anything. What we're doing is reassessing the situation as it's presented today.
Well, that project isn't just laying pipe. There's a lot
No,
more.
it's way more
there's
to
a
it.
It's
lot more.
it's $160 million, and getting into the engineering isn't going to help. So what you're saying is that project is something that may not go forward, though we would need an alternative, right? Because the need is there to get rid of that water.
And that's what we have been working excessively on, is to seek the legislation, which is what we're going through the rulemaking process, et cetera, to discharge in a low flow or no flow stream. Right now, we would love to document that project as the alternative. However, without rulemaking and DEQ being able to offer a permit, we cannot, through the system development fee statutes, calculate that into our rate. Because that is a much more palatable, no, we
It's
did
a
not.
Different project. This is, the low flow takes out the 35-mile line pipeline. It has everything else that.
So it's
we're-
an alternative that requires legislative support.
Well, we have legislation that's been passed. It's going through the rulemaking process that is a curtail to the statute that has been adopted and signed by the
Alright,
governor.
So
Yeah.
it's the more, you can do it, here's how you have to, and they're doing the,
Oh,
here's how
but
you have to.
that's not, I don't want it to be communicated like, oh, we're just going through the channels, because we've seen very direct challenges to what the legislation says versus what the draft rules had said.
How long have we been approaching this project, this,
In PDS,
yeah,
since 2020.
Yeah, 6 years.
6 years? Okay. Well, it's not like you haven't put thought into it.
But
Right.
ultimately, we need to get rid of the wastewater.
Absolutely.
So it's going to cost us money.
A lot of it, yes.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yes.
So whether it's for 35 miles of pipe, as John pointed out, or some other method, we're going to have that investment. That investment should be coming from system development fees, because the need for that investment is because of development, not
Consensus.
because of current people flushing their toilet. And so we need to get the money from where
It's not a vote, though.
the benefit is coming to,
And we might have
not
to table
from
it.
people who are already paying high water bills.
I don't need a vote or a consensus on this. It's a good public hearing on the 3rd.
So as far as the other items that are on, that Kyle presented, you just need a consensus there, Kyle?
So Kyle, you don't want to go 6:30 like Topsail Beach?
6:30?
On the parking.
My recommendation was go to
5:20,
5 and
5:25.
evaluate and.
Yeah.
On our per day pricing on that, are we pretty comparable to the
Yeah.
other places too? Okay.
You get 4 hours free.
It's included, it's not free.
So, do we have a consensus on the parking?
Yes.
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 Consensus on the administration for annexation fee?
Yes.
Do we have consensus on the community development to add zoning violation fees?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have consensus on parks, recreation, and tourism fee?
Yes.
With
And,
the caveat that we get to see more from Mr. Sadati on the whole fee schedule. And-
As represented, it's part of the upcoming budget process.
Got it. He's done some really good math.
He has, yeah.
the utilities, solid waste, sanitation, that's just a correction, consensus there.
Yes.
System development fees, as recommended by our town staff for water and sewer.
I'll say yes.
I say yes.
We need to have a public hearing there. It's-
Yeah.
That's
so-
happening anyways.
In a full presentation will be provided at that meeting, and I'll talk to Brett about separating out these, for council action, separating these fees versus system development fees. I think that's probably a prudent process to go through. Jonathan, if you want to take that note.
It's updating fee schedules as a
You're good with it, I'm
whole.
good with it.
Like, we'll relook at that for budget stuff too.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
So if there's other things we maybe want to tweak, we can talk about that later.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you want me to go back, Kyle, to the Allentown Center business on that address parking there? Was everybody, we have full consensus there?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Said yes to parking, yeah.
Yeah, parking's good.
All right, let's move on to our next item, which is item number 6, Waterline Resiliency Contract. David Price.
Mayor, Council, in December, unfortunately, we just missed the cutoff for the last work session, but we did bid out the resiliency project, which consists of Well 6, Subaqueous Crossing, Roland Pipeline, and North Shore Pipeline. This is a big project that helps with fire flow, water resiliency. It adds another high production well that pumps over 1,000 gallons a minute. We did receive a interesting loan forgiveness package in which we got $6.8 million in a loan in which a portion of it is forgiven. And the rest of it is a payback of a 0.01% interest rate, which is pretty good. We had some trouble bidding this out, but originally, like I said, we were expecting to come in around 6.8. The low bid actually came in at 5.8. So you will see two add alternates in the breakdown. I'll give the history behind this. We argued back and forth with DEQ about what would be covered under resiliency. Originally, they came back and said, we're only going to allow you to do the well house, the subaqueous crossing, and the roll-in and a 4-inch pipeline. They're going to exclude the 6-inch. While we were having a spirited discussion with DEQ, we gone ahead and bid it out, and we added an add alternate in case they didn't cover it. Also, multi-use path, they said that that's not covered. We did win the spirited conversation with him, with DEQ. The 6-inch line is also covered now. So we won that. Unfortunately, we did not win the multi-use path. They said that is not resiliency. So the final breakdown to alternate number 2, that is only the multi-use path cost. The town is getting that at a severe discount because of the work that's already being done in conjunction with the other project, and by having it all together. I'll let Mr. Brewer speak to the multi-use path, but the staff request that this be added to the consent agenda, and this is the contract's not in front of you. Since this is semi-grant funded, it has to be approved through DEQ, so this is called a tentative award. And staff asks that should you approve it at the consent agenda, that authorization be given to Mr. Brewer to work with the town attorney to execute the contract.
Thank you, David. Does anyone have any questions?
Did they give you an estimated timeline for it?
Well, like I said, it's if we get through DEQ, that's going to take about 30 days. So we're looking at starting, not the portion that the public would see. We're going to start on the well, because it would be put us in the middle of summer. We don't want to be doing this in the middle of summer.
We contracted before with ELJ.
Yeah, they built our regional subsurface, and they're currently building our digester. Yeah. To answer your question, Councilwoman, we're looking around June, but that'll be the part that you don't see the well.
The expected completion date?
Look about 18 months.
Okay. Mr. Brewer and I had talked briefly about payment schedules and when the funds need to be available. Clearly, the part where we're getting the loan, that's different than the multi-use path. There's also other ways of funding multi-use path. Kyle, did you want to make a comment on that, or?
During the next item, I will.
Okay. So, but at 18 months, and you're beginning in June, so we're looking at October, November of 2027.
I'll let Melissa speak to when things have to be accounted for. I will say that they will have to be awarded together.
You can't.
No, this is one package. This is how we were able to get something this low cost.
All right, so if we agree, then we agree to both parts.
Unless you want to delete something right now and then that part's gone, you lose that benefit.
No, I appreciate that. So it's an all or none, it's not an add-on option at some future point in time.
No, it's either we decide on whatever the services wants from this bid out, the council has to decide with this package. This is a formal bidding process. We can do a change order later. I would not recommend that. That does not work out well for towns. With the bid out process, whatever you agree and award at this time is what they're committed to. If you change it later through a change order, you are going through a negotiation process with the contractor, and whoever's done a change order knows that does not benefit the town. Change orders are not good.
No, I agree. I've experienced change orders are never to the advantage of the person with the checkbook.
I just want to make that clear. Like I said, it is possible, not recommended. Because you are not locking in this price at that time.
Okay, so if we were just to do the water part and not the multi-use path part, it's the 500, or it's the 400 and,
It's
4
the,
million, 4.8 million? Or is it,
it's the 4.8 plus the 391, so I'll just round and say
5.2?
5.2.
5.2.
But at this time, you're already replacing a water line from Roland Avenue all the way down to Dolphin.
All that groundwork will be done for the multi-use path. You'll be-
Right, and
So we're saving
the
a lot of money.
the
putting it-
potential savings, the original engineering estimates for that section was 1.2. We've got it at just under 6, or under 7, so that's about a $500,000 savings in the multi-use path. Saving $500,000 on the multi-use path is a good thing. Question is, where does the money come from? And I think, I agree to the concept. I just want to clarify that the multi-use 664,000, where is that money coming? Is it coming from
And
general?
maybe,
or-
Mayor, I can discuss that now, and then the actions
If you want.
after this will just be, easier actions to.
Dave, if you
to
just want to
handle.
like take a seat right here, then we'll come back to
Yeah.
you. Let's, item number 7, which is the multi-use path contract, BOA 7.
So exactly what Mr. Price was saying about the tentative award is going to be based on DEQ reviewing that, and it's under the same contractor, so I don't have the luxury to review that contract at this point. But what Councilman Pleil was indicating is that when we were discussing this project with the engineer, Highfill engineer, our contracted engineer for the project, we asked them, because we said, hey, we have a need on the multi-use path. We know this is part of our plan. Can we get the cost estimate and design completed with the water line? So you do have a portion of cost savings even from the engineering side, from the service level side, because that was completed as part of the initial investment. The engineer cost estimate that came in on that was $1.2 million. So when we got the ad alternative at 684, I think is what it was.
64, but
664, that was immediately a positive to the town, because now we see that we are going to potentially save $500,000 with this project. The question came in about how can we pay for this project, and specifically, can this project be funded with accommodations tax? And doing a little bit of research into it and digging, seeking concurrence from legal counsel, was that, yes, so long as we are using the Surf City 3% accommodations tax, there's a rational nexus of having this path on the oceanfront road that absolutely is serving the tourist that is coming to Surf City. And the example that we discussed was, if I'm shopping around for a beach house and that is an amenity in which I would seek, then a house in Surf City may be more favorable than a house in another jurisdiction. Therefore, that's direct accommodations tax back to the town. So what I was going to present to y'all was that the budget ordinance amendment gets amended to reflect a commitment from the accommodations tax reserve, which, as the auditor had just pointed out, is about 6.4. He even made the comment of, projects to pay with that reserve. So we think that it's a good fit. I talked to Melissa about this, and she's comfortable with the BOA coming from Fund 21 to be able to pay for that segment of the multi-use path. And I will mention, just because I don't want it to get lost in just the financial discussion about this, but this project is going to be constructed using an alternative material, this FlexiPave material, something that we have had as a strategic initiative, is when we have projects that can use pervious materials, that we want to try and achieve that. So even with the FlexiPave, that project coming in at 664, we feel like this is a win for the town and the town council to advance the Topsail Island connector by getting segment 7 completed under the ELJ contract in which Price has just discussed, so.
I think that's awesome. So your recommendation is, would be requested that the board consider transferring funds from Fund 21 accommodations funds to Fund 55.
Well, at this point, my recommendation is that council provide your consensus for Price's portion of the project, and then once that consensus has been achieved, then absolutely my recommendation is we move forward with a budget ordinance amendment with the modification of it coming from Fund 21 reserve in order to go into Fund 55 to pay for that project.
Yes.
Okay. David Price, come back up.
And in general, you know, since since it is a consensus to move it forward, you know, we can do it all in one package, but the actual documents that will be presented to you in your agenda packet will have everything separated out from the proprietary fund well, actually, they're both kind of in that realm now, but from the utility account funds and then also from the accommodations account funds. They do have to remain separate. No commingling,
commingling.
yeah.
No commingling,
This isn't
no.
it's like a middle school dance, so, yeah.
Have consensus?
Yes, absolutely.
Alicia?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Absolutely.
Yes.
yes. Thank you, David.
And
Thank
it'd
you,
be
Kyle.
great to have this on as new business on the agenda, so that we can share with in a discussion that what we have been able to do is have the multi-use path funding, some of it, come out of accommodations tax as opposed to out of the general revenue. I think that's a real positive.
Yeah, Kyle can definitely give that as an update or.
Yeah.
That's up to the mayor and agenda creation. I don't make the agendas, so
I think
whatever
it
the
needs to be an
board's
agenda item,
pleasure,
but we can definitely touch base, like discuss it. It doesn't have to just.
I will be happy to highlight. that.
Thank
The
you.
council
Thank
demonstrated
you.
a tremendous creativity in finding alternatives to,
You're writing it now?
Yeah.
You're scripting it? You're
Okay.
Thank you.
scripting it,
All right, let's
yes.
move on. Item number 9 is resolution eminent domain, and Kyle Brewer will present.
Okay, thank you, Madam
Wait,
Mayor.
hold on a second.
Oh, sorry.
I missed something.
Go back to 8 and do that separately,
Yes,
please.
number, yeah.
You gave
Okay.
consensus on 7.
Consensus on number 7.
Yes.
Yes.
Consensus on 8.
I'm sorry, you gave consensus on 6. We're on 7. So I need 7 and 8 first.
Yes.
Consensus on 7?
Yes.
Segment 7, multi-use path budget ordinance amendment? Yes.
Yes.
yes,
And then
as amended.
Yes, as amended.
As presented by David Price, and then as presented by
Kyle.
Kyle.
Yes.
And amended with the BOA coming from 21 as the funding source. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And then number 8, the segment 7, multi-use path contract?
Yes.
That's the
Is that what we're
tentative,
saying?
and again, as Price had mentioned, is the consensus is to move forward, subject to review from town attorney and the manager. And then, you know, I received some inputs on contract payment, et cetera, and we'll take all that stuff into consideration. But Brett usually does a fantastic job at contract review and execution, so.
Okay.
All right, 7, 8.
We're doing yeses.
6, 7, 8 all got consensus.
Yes.
All right, number 9, resolution eminent domain, and Kyle Brewer will present.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I did want to just cue Jonathan in on this. Again, just making sure it's a sensitive subject for any town to consider, and I don't want to get over my feet in regards to communicating the action in which this board is being requested to consider. So we have discussed the potential acquisition of property identified by PIN number 4235-34-3825-0000. The purposes of the action, which would include proceedings for potential eminent domain in exercising the town's authority, is rooted in really two different elements, in which cities have authority to exercise. The first one is the consideration of utilizing this property for future road construction. This serves as a key component to the town's overall mobility by connecting two existing roadways and providing alternative transportation methods outside of just NC 50, as you all know, being sort of that main road and can cause issues. The secondary, or really the primary purpose of this is for the consideration of working with our utilities and establishing infrastructure that will assist the town in advancing our utility projects, and specifically our Phase 2 wastewater subsurface irrigation project. When we looked at this, there is a need for what's called a scalping station in order to treat wastewater. The initial intent was to convert our mainland lift station on Aldrich Lane in Surf City to that scalping station. We adopted new flood maps, and then that property is now represented in an A zone, which is subject to the 1% annual chance of flooding. So therefore, it is being recommended that the town consider moving in this direction after some failed attempts to try and negotiate a sale of the land and to be able to move forward in the planning and execution of that project. We are preparing this resolution for the board to consider, and should the board consider the resolution by a majority vote, then that would then authorize Brett and his firm to move forward with the actions necessary to advance the eminent domain procedures. Typically, a deposit is made, and we would then be able to move forward in surveying, engineering, et cetera, that is necessary to advance the project. So specific site plans have not been developed. We have discussed how the town can mitigate impacts of sewer infrastructure on adjacent properties, and would intend to do such. But with that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board has. Again, we've discussed this action prior, but again, happy to try and answer the questions.
So, just out of curiosity, was the homeowner or the lot owner told about today's meeting?
Not specifically. So we've had communication attempts to try and meet. Those were met with potential rescheduling, and then desire for representation. Our attorney, Brett, reached out to the legal counsel, which was indicated that was representing the property owner. Those discussions began in earnest, and then we got word that that attorney was not going to be representing the property owner. So, we have communicated the desire for the town to purchase the property. We've communicated the desire of the town to utilize the property, and I'll give an example. We had a meeting, and then an hour later, I got an email said that you are not authorized to move forward with entering my property for an appraisal to be completed. So, that's kind of where those conversations have gone. So that's my response to that.
Have we ever done this before?
Not since I've been here, no. Not that I am aware of.
You guys done this before?
I'm not sure off the top of my head if we have or not. Brett may have in the past, and he'd be the person to ask. I know we've been engaged on the other side with a few of these matters, and we're familiar with the procedure. It's all contained in the statute.
How much does it cost?
I mean, it is a legal action, so like any lawsuit, the cost is a little uncertain, but you will be talking about potentially, $10,000-$20,000 at minimum.
David,
Once
did you
it
have something to
starts,
say?
Can you stop it?
At any time and during a legal action, the parties can come to an agreement. They can settle. If we agree on a buyout or agree on terms of purchase of the property, then the homeowner could agree to that as well. And we would then be able to dismiss our claim and sign over deeds and other relevant documents.
I was going to say the town has filed once before, approximately 10 years ago, but we did not complete that action.
What was the result, though? We came to an agreement?
No, after getting access to the land, we found out it was unsuitable.
Okay. But we're confident that the needs that Kyle described for the throughput and for sewer and water are valid and the attorney believes that they're defensible. In other words, it's not frivolous, it's actually defensible under eminent domain statute or regulations,
The
right?
definitions contained in the statute
Yeah.
are pretty clear, and this would fall into those definitions.
Okay. And the funding of the build-out, should we acquire that lot, part of it comes out of your enterprise fund?
All of it, pretty much.
Yeah, so except for, depending on the scope of the roadway to be constructed, we will have to have access to any future facilities, and beyond that, we'd have to talk to Brett to determine if there is, when a roadway is planned. I don't know when that would be executed in regards to programming that through our CIP, et cetera, but would that have to come out of a general fund, or could the roadway be constructed out of the enterprise fund? We will make that
Okay, so-
determination, yes.
And when you do something like this, do the neighboring properties have any rights?
Usually you're sending notices to the property owner themselves, and so the whole system is designed to give them an opportunity to respond. You're noticing them and providing them with time to respond. And then if they fail to respond, you're submitting that initial deposit and filing the lawsuit. They have an opportunity to challenge that initial deposit as insufficient. And you can argue back and forth in front of the court about the value of the property based on appraisal, counter appraisal. But the whole process is designed to give them due process to come in, hire their own counsel, and argue for their position just as much as we would argue for the town's position.
Okay, so, but there's no issue ultimately going forward for zoning or anything like that, right?
I did work with our planner. The wastewater plant is allowed in all zones, so that is not an issue.
Okay, so I'd hate to have to go through this and then end up going, oops, we can't do it because we didn't.
Not only that, but I did work with our engineers after hearing some of the concerns about screening coverage will fit. It will fit on the property with trees screening on both sides.
Okay, so if we acquire the property, we can accomplish what we want. We have funding available, and we'll figure that out when we get there. So the landowner gets a letter saying, we are going to do this, or we are doing this?
We give them 30 days' notice that we are planning to proceed, intending to proceed with the lawsuit. That's right.
So if we all agree, then basically he's going to get a letter saying in 30 days we're going to start the proceedings, and if that wakes him up to come in to negotiate, that's a solution.
We'd be happy to,
Absolutely.
as always, and I was going to say something else, but it slipped my mind, but yeah.
But if after 30 days he doesn't, then if we approve this, we have to go forward.
Yes, and we're going to rely on the legal guidance from Brett and his firm to support the process and move forward, yes.
So at this time, It is requested that the town council consider approval of the resolution as presented.
Is this a consensus or vote?
This is a vote.
Okay.
This says resolution to declare intent to exercise eminent domain.
Which is sending the letter.
Yes, yeah. So Brett, and he apologetic that he couldn't be here. He just has a conflict with the change in time, but felt that this was prudent based on our prior conversations that this board take this initial vote in order to proceed with filing the necessary intent paperwork. But, and Jonathan, I may be wrong, but after our last meeting, if there was more clarity, then he could have proceeded at that point to do that. So this initial resolution is just an extra layer for this board to make this considered this decision.
But this starts the process.
This will start the
And
process.
There's not another vote on it, this sends the letter, the 30 days starts clicking, and then we don't come back again to say, this
Yeah,
kicks it off.
unless the letter from the attorney to the landowner triggers a conversation that there's a negotiated settlement or negotiated terms before we move forward in those proceedings. And, again, I think that would be favorable for all parties so long as there is that agreement that could be achieved.
So if we agree to the resolution, it's not coming back to council absent a renegotiation in terms other than.
That's right.
Is there a way that the council gets another look at it after 30 days?
I don't know. I mean, I think that I don't know what would change. The only thing that I would bring back to y'all would be direct communication to say, we met with the property owner. The property owner has expressed willingness to sell. And if that dollar amount is more than what we intended to purchase the land with, then absolutely I'd have to come back to this board to say, hey, look, we have a willing seller. It is at this dollar amount. That dollar amount's more than what this board is willing to do. We avoid the additional costs through legal counsel. Is this something you all want to consider? That in my opinion, could be an opportunity that could present itself in bringing this back to the board. But it's always up to y'all.
So if that part doesn't happen, he doesn't come back,
Yes.
then we basically have given permission to the attorney and to the town manager to go ahead and go to the next step, which is to file a paperwork with the court.
Just to file a lawsuit, that's correct.
Yeah. So that step, we don't get another look at.
Yeah, no. Not if there's no communication or negotiation that occurs.
You move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're telling him we're not bluffing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You, Mr. Cannady?
Ready to vote.
All right. Trudy?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
Hugh?
No.
John?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
So we do not have,
Need a motion.
Need a
we
motion.
need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. So the motion is not, is the majority, but it wasn't,
That's okay. You just need a,
it doesn't have to be.
Doesn't have to
Okay,
be majority.
okay. Got it. Next item, item number 10 is legislative priorities, and Kyle will present.
okay, I've been harping on these for quite a while, I guess, a couple months, just to try to get interest as, I think this town takes pride in setting legislative priorities or legislative goals to and be able to communicate with our legislators on what our needs are, and that has effect on the state level as well as the federal level. We have seen successes with this process in the past, one being a direct appropriation from the General Assembly in the amount of $20 million, down to a direct appropriation of a little over $200,000. But that $200,000 goes a long way in operational needs, as indicated, UTVs, drones, et cetera. Other things that we've sought legislation for is local bill on paid parking, local bills on, as mentioned, the low flow, no flow legislation, et cetera. So what is before you? I'll start with the federal, just because it's first in your packet. These have remained fairly consistent. But of course, number one being the Surf City CSRM project, Coast Storm Risk Management Project. That's our Army Corps project. Here, I've modified this a little bit, just to indicate that the town is, needing the attention of our legislators, or the continued attention of our legislators to move our project forward to initial construction. Somewhat tied to that is the second item is after initial construction, re-nourishments then get programmed through the Water Resources Development Act, or what's generally called as WRDA. So that process has already begun. I have submitted the initial paperwork to the federal government in order to get on the WRDA 26 bill, but again, we just want to make sure that typically bipartisan legislation moves forward and authorization and funding is set aside. Third thing on this is after initial construction and throughout the life of the 50-year project, that the Flood Control and Coastal Emergencies Fund is funded at an adequate level in which Surf City would see nourishment occur after named storms. That's what that fund is typically used for. And then another item that we have comes back and forth. This one I'm not sure right now if it's going to make any advances, but we just want to keep it on the radar in regards to offshore wind, making sure that impact studies are being completed. We have a very prominent commercial fishing industry, recreational fishing, and we would not want to see any sort of degradation to that. Also, too, accompanied with offshore wind is typically, what we saw through the RISE Act, RISEE, is how revenues generated from offshore wind comes back to coastal communities. And of course, we want to make sure that if that is something that gets authorized, we don't necessarily have any authority of the say-so on this, but if there's revenues generated, we want to make sure that comes back to the town, that becomes a viable resource for us, and that we're able to use that. So those are the federal legislative goals or priorities. Moving into the state legislative goals, we've talked about this evening. Wastewater effluent discharge, continue to support approved legislation directing DEQ to develop rules regarding discharge of highly treated effluent into low flow and no flow streams. Rulemaking should follow the past legislation. And just as an update, I've talked to the governor's office about this, and there is a southeastern coalition that has been pretty strong at trying to communicate with the EMC as well as EPA Region 4. State beach nourishment funding, the State General Assembly, I continue to provide updates to them to let them know where we're at with our project, but the matching funds were budgeted in prior budgets. They are still available for the town. We just want to make sure that those remain available so they don't have to be rebudgeted for in future budget years, as we've seen how sometimes difficult budgets at the state level can be. Project funding, I have on here the Surf City Multi-Use Path, Facilities Expansion Project funding. I look at these as general examples. When we go to speak with our legislators, any capital improvement project that we have on our list or any need is communicated to them. of what we need project funding for. Resilience projects, we want to continue to advocate for funding, addressing island-wide resiliency projects specifically related to stormwater management, soundside flooding, and erosion. Beach Vitex, what we're asking for is a dedicated and recurring funding source for Beach Vitex, or maintain appropriate levels of funding through the Coastal Storm Damage Mitigation Fund, which is in which we sought grant funding through the CSDM in order to initiate our project. The oyster lease moratorium or compatibility. So we presented this. There was some negotiations at the General Assembly to fund a study through the UNC Consortium to evaluate oyster lease compatibility, incorporating all users, so oyster farmers, property owners, local governments, scientists, et cetera. Unfortunately, the funding for that study is tied up in a non-adopted budget, so we got to continue to push them to adopt a budget and for other reasons beyond just this small item. Delta 8, which is support and passage of language consistent with regulation of the sale and distribution of hemp-derived consumable products. These tend to be issues that we have seen within our community, and we just want to make sure that those are being regulated appropriately. Distracted driving, this is one that will probably always be on our legislative priorities list, but the chief certainly feels very strongly about this as being a source of traffic accidents and damages to person and property through those distracted driving incidents. Living shorelines, support developing a study to identify areas of high erosion to assist local governments in targeting new locations for nature-based erosion strategies. This is something that I have been harping on at the state level as well as through our North Carolina Coastal Federation. Because we just want the tools to be able to prioritize where nature-based solutions can be implemented. We're happy to track down funding, et cetera, but I need that tool in order to effectively and efficiently move forward as opposed to just picking a location and saying that this needs some nature-based solution to prevent erosion. Coastal fisheries, this was one that we added last year, but continue to seek opportunities to expand coastal fisheries statewide, as we've seen, some very strict limitations on recreational fisheries as well as commercial fisheries that generate revenue and provide livelihood for residents of Surf City. The electric assisted bicycle regulation. Support passage of Senate Bill 576 to enact to clarify the definition of electric assisted bicycle and to authorize local government regulation. And I stress this is that we do not currently have the authority to enact additional regulations on e-bikes on town-owned streets within our jurisdiction. And we'd like the opportunity to be able to do that and develop a process where we bring all stakeholders involved to develop our own ordinances on that. And then lastly, I put on here is to preserve local government authorities to ability to manage growth and development as well as administer capacity in water and sewer systems. We've seen attacks on 160D, which is the development regulations or enabling statutes at the local level, as well as legislation that was introduced that would provide threats to what we've been, in my opinion, successful in our water and sewer allocation policies. So those are the state legislative priorities in which I have presented in order to move forward and carry or send to our legislators for consideration.
Any consensus on those?
General consensus, and then as always, things can come up and we can discuss them as a board and add them to our list. The short session will begin in April. They're operating under continued resolution right now, but in earnest, they will move forward in April. Other things we've been made aware of is There is a committee in the House that they've established a local government committee on property taxes, which has been very interesting to learn about. We are following it very closely. I've been providing some comments, but they want to find methods to reduce burdens of property tax on residents of North Carolina, with the understanding that they're not trying to remove revenues from towns and counties. They don't want to make them not whole. So exploring other alternatives that other states may enact. We've heard of things like homesteads and true values being assessed when properties get sold, not based on the reassessment cycle. So it'll be an interesting thing to follow. Our understanding is that since this is coming from the House, it's going to be difficult to get the Senate to agree to anything because they're at odds with each other right now. But again, something to keep our eye on. And then, of course, tax breaks in North Carolina. And, Councilman Cannady, I can certainly discuss that too and provide the board information on that. But North Carolina doesn't give a lot of exemptions or breaks to property owners in regards to taxation from property tax. So. Okay, yeah, that's fine. Yep.
All right, so consensus to move forward?
I have
Yes.
an observation and a question for Kyle. On the federal one, the offshore wind, I know one of the things that often comes up is the aesthetics of offshore wind, as well as the impact it might have on tourism because of the view. So I'm thinking adding that, including in addition to noise. The other is when we write in there assistance sending potential revenue, it suggests, it doesn't confirm, but it suggests that we would be willing to have offshore wind farms if we could get money for it.
Sure.
So I'm not entirely sure if the wording sends the correct message. I don't think there's a general consensus, even amongst the board members, that wind farms are a good thing.
Sure. And that would not ensue that the board has made those concessions to wind farms, but yes.
And then number 7 on the state local, I don't think Delta 8 and the whole concept, some states have approved marijuana, some have approved medical marijuana. North Carolina is still on the no approval for either kind of side of it. I don't think that's a local issue. I don't think that's a priority for us.
Well, this is, so that would be, and Chief, I'm going to get out of my lane, but Delta 9 is the naturally derived element for marijuana and what creates it. This is, Delta 8 is this, what they're deriving out of the hemp product for the synthetic materials that are being sold in the vape shops and
the gummy.
Correct,
Right,
or whatever method it is being distributed. Chief, I'll let you kind of highlight this one.
Delta 8 is a derivative, it is of the hemp plant. So back when they passed the hemp bill in 2018, I believe it was, there was a loophole. They made everything that had to do with hemp legal. And what they did was they looked at it and they took Delta 8, Delta 10, THCA, which were all trace elements in hemp, synthesized them, and then infused all these products with THC. They call it marijuana light, but Delta 8, Delta 10, THCA, when consumed, will make you high as a kite. Our youth is ingesting this locally. It's being sold in all the stores around Surf City. It's completely unregulated at this point. There's no control over it. There's no cap on an age for sale. You can walk across the street to the Handy Mart right now and buy it. Our youth is consuming this, and I'm very concerned about their welfare, their health, their safety. We have had some incidents in Surf City directly tied to Delta 8 and these hemp products that have been very critical. I can go into those in detail if you like, but I certainly think this is a local priority, well, a priority that I take very seriously. This is not stuff that we want in our community. It needs to be regulated. If someone is an adult and they want to consume THC in the privacy of their own home, I could really care less. But what I'm looking at is protecting our youth.
Oh, add that language.
I think but it kind of says that. It says consistent with regulation of the sale and distribution. So we're not saying that we don't want it or do want it. What we're saying is we want to make sure that there's some sort of standard set that makes sure that it's not getting overserved. And that goes for adults as well as children. I have a bar and I don't sell it there for that reason, because there's no way to understand how much is too much for somebody or how much is not enough. Unfortunately, sometimes you can't do that with alcohol either, and it is a problem in the schools. There's kids taking stuff, vapes that are colorful and marketed towards kids. So I don't have any issue with that written the way that it is. I think it needs to be mandated as a whole.
At this point, if you go to an ABC store, you can't go in there if you're 14 and buy anything, but if you walk into one of these shops, you can buy it, right? There's no age on it, so there's got to be some sort of
regulation of access is
regulation.
different than making it illegal.
I'm not talking about making it legal or illegal. I'm talking about putting regulations on it to make sure that it's not sold to children, not sold near schools.
And I totally agree.
Do we have consensus on the state and federal goals?
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Kyle.
All right, unless there is anything else, I just want to give another shout out to Melissa. She's gone. She had a long ways to drive, but to her and her team for making sure that the auditor had everything that they needed to present us with our audit tonight. And if there's nothing else to be said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.